Welcome to Aftermarket, it's BY here, and today's video is going to be just a little bit longer because I'm going to be showing you both the setup and live cops on both Kodai and Polaris for the highly anticipated Yeezy 350 V2 Bred restock. This is going to be the exact setup that I run on release day. As always, please like this video, turn on notifications, subscribe to our channel, and make sure to follow us on Instagram at Aftermarket. Leave a comment with questions or anything else you want me to talk about in future live cops or videos. We started Aftermarket a little bit over 6 months ago, and while we are still trying to figure out exactly what our content and our setups should be, we do appreciate all of your support, everyone who's watched the video, everyone who's subscribed to our channel. We hope everyone has a great new year and looking forward to better things to come in 2021. So I'm going to get started with Kodai. It's one of the easiest bots to set up in my opinion. Most of the instructions can be found in the Kodai Discord. I'm going to start off just setting up my Footlocker grade school tasks. So I'm going to type in Footlocker GS and choose my Footlocker region. Once you do that, you can see here on the actual tasks page, you can choose your monitor type, which is only skew. Monitor delay, it's default at 3500. Proxies, I'm not going to fill them in now, I'll come back to them later. So I'm going to start off with my product SKU, which can be found in the Kodai Discord and the Footsites Setup channel. For scheduled start time, I believe these are rumored to release at 7 a.m. Eastern time. I usually like to start my tasks a few minutes before the release. However, I have heard some last second changes that saying Footsites might release at 10 a.m. So once I can confirm this, I'll come back and make sure that my tasks start at the right time. Less intensive monitoring is a setting that the devs have put in there but said it's not ready to use yet, so I'm going to leave that alone for now. For ignored data dump captures, either you could put in a large proxy list and turn this feature on, or you can kind of put in your third-party capture solvers, which will automatically solve the data dump captures as they come up. You can use as many third-party solvers as you want. You can have multiple 2-capture accounts, multiple anti-capture accounts, and you can also type in manual in this field, manual, and you can open up a few of your local solvers. And basically, if 2-capture and anti-capture are going a little bit slow, you can use your local solvers to do it as well. You type in the keys exactly as you see it, so 2-capture space dash space your key. I'm going to go ahead and paste mine in for now. Coming back to the actual task setups, you can obviously pick your individual profiles. You can choose to use all profiles. You can kind of choose how many tasks per profile you want to create. Kodai also recently introduced profile groupings, which I have grouped all of my profiles for. So I'm going to choose my Footlocker profiles, use them all. For sizing, you can come down and choose individual sizes if you want. You can choose preferred or random. For this specific release, I think the GS sizes are all going to be pretty profitable. So how I'm going to set my tasks up is for the GS groups, I'm going to go with random sizing. And then once I get to the men's sizing, I'll switch over to preferred just to make sure I can get only the sizes that I'm looking to grab and that are going to be the most profitable for me. So after I create my tasks with my Footlocker group of cards and random, I'm going to come over here, save my changes. PayPal, they used to have a PayPal checkout option on Footsites that would prevent PV. I think recently they've turned it off, but I still go ahead and turn all of my PayPal settings on, and if it can't check out via PayPal, it'll just kind of revert back to the default Adidas checkout, which is completely fine. So let me just double check here. Oh, also a cool feature that Kodai recently put out is that you used to have to delete your task one by one, but they actually have put in a setting that allows you to mass delete all your tasks, which has been pretty convenient. Another good feature of Kodai is you can pretty much just come and copy over your releases to different sites they support. So I'm going to go and convert my Footlocker GS task and copy them over to my Footlocker men's tasks, change the SKU, look at everything else. when you copy tasks over, the third-party settings you put in are going to stay as you put them in for your previous tasks, so that's all fine. I realize right now I have these task settings set on random, but as I said before, my GS I'll run random, and my men's I want to run preferred, so I'm going to quickly delete my tasks, put in my preferred settings for my Footlocker task groups, and just reviewing it now, I'm going to turn all of these PayPal settings on, and basically this is pretty straightforward. Those are my two Footlocker tasks. Well, again, you can kind of change and copy over your tasks to different sites, but for me, I have task profiles and cards for each individual foot site, so instead of copying it, I'm just going to come over and set up a brand new release task just so you guys can see it again. So I'm going to start with champs again on their GS sizes. Gotta go to the Kodai Discord, copy over the SKU. Again, I'll fill out my proxies later, and I'm going to have to reconfigure my third-party capture keys. So again, 2Capture and Anti-Capture, they both work fairly well. They do tend to get a little bit backed up during release days, so I have my 2Capture bids set to the max amount, and I still see a delay sometimes. So if you do have multiple 2Capture or Anti-Capture accounts, I would recommend trying to put all of them in so that you spread out your demand for captures as much as possible, because during release days, like I said, these services tend to get backed up. So coming back here, I'm gonna make my tasks and move on to my men's task, where again I'm going to change my sizing to preferred from random and turn on my PayPal features. I'm going to move a little bit forward now, just because once you set up one of your footsite tasks, I've found that they're mostly the same. So I'm going to jump over to a new task group for Finishline, which is slightly different. The Finishline SKU obviously is still going to be in the Kodai Discord, but it's a little bit different format than the other foot sites. You can see here also Finishline does not have Data Dome, so you don't see the same settings for Data Dome. What you have to do here with Finishline is just open up a local Salva in your Kodai for Finishline and just have that up during the release, and once your Finishline tasks pick up product, it'll start kind of solving it automatically. I've had no issues there in the past. And for the same thing as my other foot sites, I'm going to come choose my Finishline task group. For GS, again, I'm going to go random. And for Finishline, they have desktop and mobile sites. You can kind of go click on the desktop column and kind of adjust how many tasks you want running desktop, how many tasks you want running mobile. I found more success on just running desktop, so I'm going to change all of my tasks to desktop. Again, once I'm done with my GS tasks, I'm going to come over and clone it for the adult. And for Finishline specifically, I'm just going to keep it as random, just because Finishline is a little bit more difficult or a little bit harder for me to kind of hit on. So for Finishline, I'm fine with kind of going for any size that I can get my hands on. And you see here, the good thing is for Finishline and JD Sports, they run the exact same SKUs, and I have the same profiles that I run for both. So instead of having to change my JD Sports tasks, I'm going to basically just straight copy over my Finishline GS as well as my Finishline Adult right into JD Sports task. So that was it. Foot site setup on Kodai is very straightforward. Obviously, it took a little bit of time, but once you get the hang of it, it shouldn't be that bad. So hopefully I can use this setup and it'll be good for tomorrow's release, so we'll see. So moving right into my Polaris setup for these breads, all the instructions again can be found in the Polaris Discord, in the Yeezy Supply channel, as well as the special mode setup channel. I'm gonna go ahead and get started. So I'm gonna click add tasks. I'm gonna choose web. For product, here's basically just the title. You can call it anything. You can call it bread, you can call it Yeezy, but I like to just keep mine consistent with the style code. For the actual product ID, you'll have to type in the actual style code or your task won't work, so make sure the product ID is right. For retailer, you can see I'm going to type in Yeezy Supply. For sizes, I'm going to come in and select my sizes, and again, there's not really an easier way than just to click on them, but I'm going to go random and start choosing the sizes that I want Polaris to go for. And before I forget, if you're using IP auth proxies, there's going to be 2 IPs that Polaris requires you to authorize with your proxies in order for special mode to work. I think they're located in the special mode setup channel, so if again you're using IP auth proxies, please make sure to check that Discord channel and authorize those 2 IPs, or else your tasks won't work for special mode. So for mode, I'm going to again select special. For payment method, I'm going to select credit card, and again for profiles, I haven't found an easier way, but it's similar to how you select your sizes. I'm just going to come down here and click a few. If anyone has any faster ways to select sizes, please do let me know, because it does get annoying. For splash, I'm going to select no. For captcha, I'm going to select no as an instruction state. For your proxy groups, you have to load up your proxies separately in the settings section, but once you do that and hit save, you're going to be able to see your proxy groups available here. For select proxy, I'm going to do random, but if you want to select them one by one for each of your tasks, you can feel free to do that. Scheduled start, you can schedule a start if you want, but for me, I like to wait until the release and make sure that there's no updates or any other things I have to do, and I'm going to hit add task. So that's it. Pretty straightforward setup, and we'll see how it does tomorrow. So moving on to the live cop of these breads on Kodai. At the last second, the devs had said to not start your tasks until you see the queue up. So instead of having my scheduled start times, I had to go back and make sure that the queue was up and then manually start all of my tasks. There was a really long queue for this bread release, longer than I've ever seen. I've also seen Kodai make some improvements where the tickers go up a little bit faster. I'm not sure if that's just because my delays are lower or what, but as you can see, I checked out a pair quite early on, so I knew at least that my setup was working for at least one pair. But throughout the release, you guys can see that checkouts are starting to roll in. I did try to change up and use both Resis and ISP proxies. This time I found most of my success using ISPs for my Resi tasks. They just seem to be burning a lot of data and not really doing much for me. Taking a break here, don't you guys love when you see a task stuck on or about to submit order and then you wait for a second and it actually goes through? I think it's one of my best feelings. So anyway, I burned a huge amount of Resi data this release. I think I actually burned through about 10 gigabytes within the first 30 minutes, and then I didn't even realize it. I thought my proxies were broken, so you can see the generating session here, but actually what happened was I used up all of my data and had to go back and kind of top up my proxy plans and regenerate proxy lists. So I think moving forward, I'm going to try to stick with DC or ISP proxies and leave Resis behind just until they at least can figure out the data burn or see some more success with ISPs. But overall, pretty solid release on Kodai for myself. I walked away with quite a good amount of pairs, and then now let's see what Polaris can do for me. So moving right into the Polaris Live Cop of these breads. Polaris is a great bot on Yeezy Supply, and I've heard good things about its other modules, and they're improving every single day. It's still a fairly new bot with a small team and I believe a single dev, so it's normal to expect some growing pains. However, it's unfortunately started to become a bit of a thing where on the largest releases, sometimes Polaris has server-side issues that don't allow you to run the bot for the release, or at least when the release starts. Something similar happened with the bread release where when the sale initially went live, I wasn't able to run the bot for the first 20 minutes just because of some server-side issues. But once that was addressed, I was able to start my tasks and then became the waiting game to pass queue and see if I could check out. I had a pretty tough time passing queue on Polaris on this Yeezy Bred release. I'm not sure if it was just my proxies or that this was a harder release to pass queue with. Let me know if you guys out there have Polaris and had an easier time or a harder time passing queue, and what kind of proxies you were using. I was running ISPs initially, and I also switched over some to Resis, but I wasn't really having much success with one or the other, at least at where I could notice. One thing I did notice that was happening a lot and that you'll start seeing in this video is that I was getting so many payment declines on most of my tasks. It was getting to a point where I thought it was a little bit ridiculous, where I think I was getting probably 5 to 10 payment declines for every one successful checkout. So it was kind of like a tease, because you can see here a lot of errors coming up, a lot of payment declines coming up. So I think I probably could have walked away with a really large amount of pairs on YS if I had my profiles figured out. I've been running the majority of the same profiles in Polaris on Yeezy Supply for the majority of this year, so maybe this is something that I'm really going to sit down and address, and maybe change my profiles up moving into the new year, because if I have another big release where I see so many missed opportunities to check out, it's going to be really upsetting. I did end up walking away with a good amount of pairs on YS as well, but not as many as I had wanted to or could have gotten if I could have figured out their payment declines. But overall, a pretty successful day on Kodai and on Polaris. I hope you guys enjoyed this video of the setup as well as the live cops. Thanks for watching, and catch me on the aftermarket.